We have 12 people in the room, and I would love to welcome Ellen and Jenny as guests this afternoon. And I will now, Jenny, would you like to be the boss of the breakout rooms? Would that be fair?
Sure, yeah, I will be the boss of the breakout rooms. I feel like I should get a tattoo or something that says breakout room boss, right? Like some sort of weird new stamp. That's like a COVID, post-COVID marker that people will have now, like breakout room boss.
That's right.
So that's fine, but we're going to kick you off today with just saying hi, and we're so happy to be here, and we're the Boulder Company. Ellen and I are the founding partners at the Boulder Company, and we're thrilled to be with you. We've actually had conscious capitalism on our radar quite a lot the last couple of years. We're friends with Karen Centeo is a dear friend, and she also, she facilitates with us from time to time. She works with us, so we love Karen. And I think Brent Robertson is someone also that you guys know, that Brent, I think, has swum in the capitalism pond occasionally with you. So we were delighted when you reached out and said, hey, will you have fun with us? And so, because we're always game to say yes to somebody inviting us to come and play. So my name is Jenny Drescher, and in addition to being in the Boulder Company as a founding partner, I'm also a performance improviser. And Ellen and I are here to offer you a way to look at life through the lens of fun, look at your team through the lens of fun, and look at how is it that you might be able to take a couple of simple things that we're going to do today, both topically, and we're going to do a little bit of exercise, a little bit of game. Don't worry, no one has to act like a chicken. That's usually just me that does that randomly out of nowhere. So even though it's improv, you're not going to feel embarrassed or uncomfortable. And so we're here to help you with that and hope that you'll take away some fun. Ellen, what would you add to that?
I would add that we're just delighted to be here today and encourage everybody. We're going to start this meeting the way we start all meetings, which is to encourage you to settle back in your chair a little bit and put your feet on the floor. Put your hands on top of your legs. Find a comfortable position. Maybe roll your head from side to side. Loosen up your neck. Yeah, there we go. Bring your shoulders all the way up to your ears if you can get them there, and then shrug them down. Maybe do that a few times. Really sort of loosen up. And then when you feel a little better about that, just give your eyes a gentle close. And we're just going to breathe together for a couple of breaths. We're going to invite you to breathe in for a count of 4, to hold it for a count of 4, to release it for a count of 4, and then hold it for a count of 4 for a couple of rounds. So I'll invite you to breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, and now just exhale. Return to breathing normally. Keep your eyes closed for one more second. As you're breathing in, breathe in joy and ease. Release stress and concern. Breathe in lightness and play. Exhale worry and fear. And before you open your eyes, think to yourself about the last time that you laughed so hard there were tears running down your face and your jaw actually hurt from smiling so much. Take a moment to really take in the joy and the laughter and the fun from that time with that person. And as you open your eyes and come back into the room, bring your joy with you, because we're going to have a great rest of this hour together. Thank you.
How does everybody feel? show me on your face how you feel right now.
Pretty good.
All right. Pretty good. Excellent. Excellent. So we're going to just point, oh, Ellen, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that the reason, everything we do is for a reason in our sessions. One of the things that we've noticed, particularly in the world of Zoom, is that folks don't necessarily take time to arrive in the room. Very often a Zoom meeting starts and all of a sudden it's like popcorn and faces coming on the screen, and it's very discombobulating for our eyes and our sense of, like, because I see that Jude is in the room and we've known Jude for years, and I just, like, I want to reach out and chat with her, but it's like, who's all here? It's a little overwhelming. So giving folks an opportunity to do that for a second and then just all come into the room together kind of has everybody's central nervous system calm back down to a place where they're able to learn again. Because a hyper-stimulated brain just doesn't learn as well. So it's a way to sort of tell our mind and body that all is well. All right.
It's also a way of helping us feel a little bit more normal, because right now, in jumping from virtual room to virtual room, we're missing exchanges. We're missing walking into a room and feeling, hey, look, I've arrived in the room. So we call that very simple exercise arriving in the room. See, so easy to remember. So we welcome you to steal like an artist, take it, use it in your meetings, use it in your group. And by the way, you also just did some improv. So one of the things that improvisers do, which we borrow a lot of improvisation in our work on unconscious bias, emotional intelligence, DISC personality, we infuse everything we do with improvisation. Part of what you just did was you practiced arriving on the stage, because improvisers need to find their space. They need to arrive. I'm on the stage. Where's my audience? Where's my scene partner? Where's the back of the house, front of the house? So we arrive so that we can stay present and focused with our performance partners. And if we think about this, every exchange that we have with other humans as an opportunity to take great care of other performance partners, then that moment of focus opens up the door for greater ease and connection, cultivating that sense of focus. So let's see if we can move this along a little bit. So I'm going to invite you, if you're not in a noisy place, please feel free to unmute your phone, because we are going to do a simple exercise here. Does everybody have the ability to unmute pretty quickly and easily?
Yeah.
Because you're going to need to be able to hear each other.
And we'd love to see your faces as well.
Yes, so I see a couple of folks that are joining us on audio only. So we will figure out how to include you in the game. We will certainly make that work, not a problem. So let's just very simply, I brought my invisible ball with me. Thank goodness. Love my invisible ball. It's my favorite ball. It's the one I take with me everywhere I go. So we're just going to simply toss the ball around a little bit, but we're going to do it in a very particular way. So Ellen and I will model this for you. The exercise is called sound ball. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to throw the ball. I'm going to make a little sound. And then when Ellen catches the ball, she's going to repeat the sound. And then she's going to do one other thing. So we'll just show you real quick what this looks like. To Ellen. Okay, so now Ellen has caught the ball. So she's going to do two things. One, she's going to add a number to her name. So it's now going to read Ellen 1. And then she's going to make a new noise and toss the ball to somebody else. She's going to shout out their name so that they know they need to get ready to catch.
So I will send it to Jude. Wonderful.
How about Alexandra? Paul. Bloop.
Let's see, Gavin. Boing.
Boing. Frank. Pop, 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 pop.
Lynn.
Matt. Matthew, you ready?
I was born ready.
Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-booey.
Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-booey. And is everyone?
Got it. Here's to Jenny.
I'm not sure.
All right. First of all, this is virtual applause, which also is known as jazz hands. So practice that for a quick second. Give yourselves a round of applause. Right? So sounds like, you know, I have to say, this is the first time we've played this game virtually where we had two people in the same room. So well done, Frank Eckers 7. That was like, you guys just had this whole level of beautiful coordination there that just brought the whole room to light. So I'm compelled to notice that, was it just me, or was that just delightful to watch?
It was fun.
Right? Yeah, it was fun. It was delightful. They were coordinated and they were in flow. So they did something else that was about another improvisation principle that we adore is called make your partner look great. So in any improvisation situation, you have players on the stage, right? Bunny number 1, bunny number 2. And if you've got these two players on stage and one person says, my goodness, what a wonderful day it is at the beach. And the other player says, Ellen, would you block me on this one, please?
We're not at the beach. We're in a parking lot. What are you talking about?
Oh, what happens to our scene? We haven't even agreed at a very basic level about where we are. So improvisers by trade. So where are you going to go with that? You said now you're in the scene that's an argument. Nobody wants to watch that scene. There's not a lot of great comedy coming out of that. So in improvisation, we build agreement about where we're coming from, but we also work hard at elevating our partners, elevating our scene partners. So the Team Frank did a great job of elevating each other. They made each other right in that moment in whatever it was they were doing. Because what could have happened just there was they could have stopped and went like, well, you know, I want to do this and I want to do this. And then we would have all been feeling really awkward because we would have been like, yeah, you guys get back to us when you figure it out. And okay, but they didn't. They just seamlessly elevated one another. So we invite you to take on that as an additional component of building your ability to manage change in the moment and to find humor unexpectedly, is to practice making your partners look great. So Ellen, I'm sorry, not Ellen. So what else did you think you needed to practice? Let's hear from you guys. Sorry, I was about to call on you and then I'm like, I'm calling on you because you're next to me on my screen. So what else did you have to practice to make that work? What else did you have to do to make that exercise work?
Listen.
We both said the same thing at the same time.
And even more basic than that, pay attention.
Did we give you a right or wrong way to do that? No. Right? Okay. Anything
What
else?
else? Did you have to suspend any kind of ego talk? Sometimes that happens in this exercise. That looks so silly, foolish. A little?
Yeah.
You have to be willing to look silly in front of strangers.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not our norm. Yep. So creativity, openness to looking a little potentially awkward in front of people that you may not have a relationship with. Do we think that all of these things are part of how we manage to adapt and change and innovate in the face of the reinvention of what our world looks like now? Do we have to be willing to fall a little bit on our faces and feel a little awkward?
Yeah.
So I think we do.
And also create space for doing something that feels a little bit out of our norm and be seen by others doing it. I don't know how many of you have launched virtual anythings in front of the world lately, but sometimes we all just like collectively crash on our faces, right? Let's go to breakout rooms, and then the internet drops. We're like, oh, well, I guess we're not doing that. Let's just do this as a big group exercise, right? Because you can't predict what the technology is going to do, and we're not necessarily 100% adept at what we need to do to respond in that moment. So we've created more space, hopefully, for each other to make some of those stumbles and keep walking together. Have you seen that happening? I see a lot of people nodding. Like, people tend to have a lot more patience these days for things not going perfectly well. Right? Tara's going, Great.
Well, you have to. You have to be.
Yeah, exactly. And so the next exercise that we're going to move you into has us think about some concepts in terms of how we accept what's coming at us in the world. So Jenny, are we going to do this in 2 breakouts? You want to?
Yeah, we've got enough people. I'm making the breakout rooms right now. I'm going to give us a clock. We've got a nice little chunk of time to play with, so I'm going to set us at a clock for 10 minutes. Oh, Glenn, you're back. I'm so happy you're here. Paul, what did you think about that exercise?
That was very good.
Fun.
Very good.
Woo! Everybody's back. Where's Ellen? Oh, there's Ellen. All right, Jenny had to leave. A monkey in the kimono will now be taking her place. Ah! I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He's bad that way.
There we go. Hello, people. So what we were just practicing in our breakout room was something that we call building language and behaviors and blocking language and behaviors, with yes and being a clear building behavior. You know, we started out with a paddle boat going around Long Island Sound, and we ended up with fireworks and Bon Jovi and gourmet s'mores and puppies. So I'm sure that you got there too with your group, right? So this whole conversation.
Yeah, we are going around the world. I'm so psyched. We're going around the world, and we're bringing the Rolling Stones.
Okay. Well, we had Bon Jovi, so you know that's always my ad. And we also had a little bit of conversation about blocking language and behaviors, and the things that we might do quite naturally to block enthusiasm, creativity, and ideas in the people around us. And, you know, sometimes what blocks us is things like when we're on a Zoom call and we go to speak and somebody else goes to speak, and you have that awkward, no, you go, right? So part of hopefully what you noticed in your breakout room is sort of a management of that flow for people. So that takes it off the table and takes away that block to engagement during your virtual sessions as well. And then we also have, you know, if you think about it, we can bring this conversation into discrete things, like what is it about our language that blocks other people, but also what actions. You know, are we one of those people who's on a Zoom call with other people or in a meeting with somebody else, and we're either looking at our phone or we're staring at a screen off in the distance? Like, how many of you know when somebody is multitasking when you're on a Zoom call? Raise your hand. Should be 100% of you. So you're not fooling anyone, right? Everybody knows when you're not paying attention. So pay attention, please. But, you know, in real life, you know, we talk about on Zoom calls and things like that, we're supposed to be staring at the dot in the center of the screen, so it looks like I'm talking at you or talking with you. But how are we inadvertently blocking people or building? You know, when somebody is speaking, are we smiling and nodding at them and giving them some feedback? Even though we feel like we're in our offices, we're not passive participants in this conversation. And so as we're looking to build engagement on our team, particularly if your team is dispersed, how do you build in more visible signs that you're tracking with the other person so that they know you're with them?
So I'd like to hear from you all about what you think some of the building behaviors are and the blocking behaviors are in the context of what Ellen was saying, in terms of the way that we work with teams or the way that we work with ourselves. I mean, I think it's an interesting question right now as we're retooling and rebuilding certain things anew. how do we block other people in those spaces? How do we block ourselves? And what some subtle moves are that we can do that just, well, oh, I can build in this moment instead, whether that's building at the level of self or building a partner, a spouse, a friend, a colleague, whatever it may be. So what are some of those ideas that you might have about building?
Tara?
The first thing I thought about when you were talking was you can block yourself and block others with assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you don't even recognize that you're making the assumptions for yourself. So I think checking assumptions and then asking questions instead, or being curious about what you might think you're seeing or hearing can, in my experience, open up the conversation. But when too many assumptions are embedded in the conversation, it closes it down or it blocks it.
Mm. That's a great point.
Maybe if someone is constantly building, then there is a tendency for someone else to be blocking, just as a sort of a counter move, without necessarily wanting to be either, but just as a way of saying, hey, but have you thought about the other side?
Yeah.
I think really tight time constraints are probably a blocker. You know, if you've got too much material to cover for the time that you've got allotted, then it's just gonna get bad.
Yeah.
But for building, you know, I think like when we have our weekly production meetings, Glenn's always good about, you know, pointing out when we're debriefing things, you know, pointing out not just a pat on the back, but what specific things, you know, he appreciated that different people contributed. So that's really nice. Yeah.
Right. And specificity is so important, isn't it? Because empty praise like great job means something very different than I really appreciate the time you put into that PowerPoint deck. And I appreciate the fact that there were only 3 slides and 3 words on each slide. Right. Yeah. Very different.
Sort of like what Tara said about assumptions. One of the things you did, Ellen, to start our exercise when we did the yes and was that, you know, we had unlimited funds, unlimited time. I mean, setting the stage for that to remove the assumptions that there are limitations really helped a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So having people have a clear understanding of what the parameters are at any given time sort of gives them the ropes on the boxing ring to play inside of or outside of. Right? Awesome.
It's funny when we're working in a creative process, you know, I might say to Ali, for example, hey, have some fun with this animation. And I know that she quite enjoys in some cases, the lack of specificity and the lack of boundaries. As a creative lady, she really enjoys permission to explore as well. And she usually does a really good job of it. So some people really thrive on the lack of specificity.
Yes.
At times.
Yeah. So that is that divergent thinking, you know, letting it go wherever it's going to go and keeping it open. We talk about that as well when we teach listening, right? That we want to keep the funnel open and get as much information as possible before we start coming down to, and we work with a lot of people in technical fields like manufacturing and AEC, where folks really are very focused on getting to something and then starting to move forward. And very often we're challenging them. How much longer can you leave the lens on the wide open space to take in more points of view, get more ideas that might inform your thinking as you narrow it down, right? Scientists, once Jude works a lot with the Alan Alda Center, and when scientists get locked and loaded on proving something, it's very challenging, right? Because they get funding to get to the finish line with their ideas. Right? It's very difficult when something comes into the field that's off point, but right? Yeah. So.
But isn't that usually how inventions happen?
Yes. If you have a culture that embraces that, which is the story of the Post-it note from 3M. I don't know if you've ever heard this. It takes 2 seconds to tell this story. That Post-it notes were a mistake. But 3M had a culture that if you spend time, energy, and money making something and it doesn't work for its intended purpose, figure out what it works for instead. And so the adhesive that the scientist made, or the inventor made for this thing, it was supposed to stick paper together, but he noticed it kept peeling off. Right? Think about how many gazillions of Post-it notes you've now used in your life because 3M didn't say scrap that. They said, yes, that does that. What is that? How do we need that? Right? So if we live in the world of right and wrong, good and bad, yes and no, we don't get to Post-it notes. Right? And sometimes it takes.
So let's see if we can play with that concept a little bit more. So we're going to, through the magic of the interwebs, we're going to send you in pairs. Only this time, you're actually going to, one of you is going to also be moving through time. This is how magical we are, is that you are moving through time when you're going through the breakout room. So the way this is going to work is that does anybody remember the story of Rip Van Winkle, right? He fell asleep for a bunch of time, then he came up, he woke back up, and he was in a different time, right? So Ellen, could you do me a favor and drop that slide for a quick second?
Yep.
So the way that this is going to work is that when we send you into your breakout room, we're going to have one of you, whichever one of you has the lower number, is now suddenly going to be the person out of time, right? So your context is completely different. So you may have no idea about technology. You may have no idea about running water. You may have no idea about these devices that we're on, or these devices that we're on all the time. So you're a person out of time. So you have no context for modern living as we know it. You don't even know what electricity is, right? So you're the person out of time. The other person, the person with the higher number, their job is going to be to explain something to you. And your job is to try and get them to really explain it to you in a way that you can understand. So you may have to give them some pushback. So Ellen and I will model this super quick for you. Ellen, I'll pretend to be number 0. So I'm the person out of time. Ellen's job is going to have to be to explain a radio to me.
Okay, so well, you turn on the button and sound comes out.
I have buttons like the buttons on my shirt.
Kind of, but there's things that come through the air and then sound comes out.
Oh, the seeds and pollen have been in the air a lot lately. I'm noticing how challenging that is. I've never really heard them make sound, though. I'm not sure I follow you. So you get the idea. I'm giving her a little bit of pushback. So I'm going to send you into your room in pairs for some entertainment while you wait for the breakout room. So if you're watching the recording of this, then these two are going to play the 300, 500, 7,000 year gaps. So I am the person with the lower number. My job is to be from out of time. So you, other puppet person, please explain to me what a cell phone is. I'm listening.
A cell phone is a device that you use to talk to people far away.
A device to talk to people far away. Okay.
Far away.
I think I understand. Far away, like across the room, across on the other side of
the neighborhood.
Street? How far away?
On the other side of the neighborhood, or really anywhere in the whole world, which, by the way, is round.
What?
Yeah. Those are the things that we know. The world is round. The Red Sox rule, and the beach is a cool place to be.
Well, the beach is a cool place to be.
And you can call anybody on this cell
phone.
What?
So I was addressing the people on the recording in case they wanted to know how to play it. So now you have the instructions for how to play it. And so we invite you, if you're on the recording, that you can go ahead and do that at home. And we're also going to give you a bonus because they're in the room for 1 more minute. So we're going to give you a bonus. What's the bonus, Ellen?
The bonus is if you have more interest in having these kind of play sessions for your team, just call us because we'll play. We like to play.
I think the other thing that matters here is that as adults, one of the ways that we manage change is to retract and get really serious and get really in our heads about it. But one of the major advantages of play is that it takes us out of the space of taking ourselves too seriously.
It's hard to take yourself
Right?
seriously when you're being channeled through a puppet.
It is. So notice that even though it may be silly and you may be sitting there at home going, what? Part of what we invite you to take on is how can I make any moment more playful? How can I lighten up about myself at any given point? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give them a 10. I'm going to bring them back. They're coming back and they are just going to have
smiles on their faces, hopefully.
Smiles on their faces. And they're closing. Oh my gosh.
Welcome back, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry. He gets a little out of control sometimes. He thinks he's in charge. So I just have to kind of say, it's okay. Don't worry. It's fine. So we were just talking at the break about the importance of not taking yourself too seriously. And this pack rat here, see, he's so proud of himself. He even wears his own brand, pack rat. I do. I really do. I'm very proud of me. Okay. Importance of not taking yourself too seriously. So how was that? Unmute yourselves. Let's hear how that was for you in that exercise.
Difficult.
What was difficult?
Just to try to explain it on a level that the other person understands, not being familiar with it at all.
So no similar context, right?
Right.
Yeah. I know that you work in architecture, Alwyn,
Yes.
right? So how often do you go into
it happens all the time,
right?
Happens all the time. We always talk like this.
Yes. So who else has noticed that in their work sometimes there's a gap, which is what this exercise focuses on between your level of knowledge and the people that you're either presenting to or talking with or trying to provide services to, right? Absolutely. And how much time do we spend talking over people's heads where they're not telling us, right? And like we're here and they're like, and they've gone away, really. Like they might be nodding their head, but they're not with us at all, right? What other gaps do you see in the work that you do?
Well, my next call at 4 o'clock, so I have to dash a little bit early, is this is actually really pertinent to it because it's making me think about how I might approach it differently. But the thing that I thought was really interesting is the prompts for the questions. Like I realized I know very little about diesel fuel, and I like the preparation to be able to describe even what it was. I was like, I actually don't know. Like it's just a different, but it just shows like sometimes we might, if you're not thinking about it from the perspective and planning it out, like how you might describe it, like there's a lot to be said for like thinking that through before you get into the moment, which of course in this exercise we by design didn't have time to do, but it just made me think about prepping in a different way.
Yep.
I had a mentor one time say that if something is completely new, because I try to describe things that maybe people haven't had a chance to see or experience before working in the arts. And he said if something's completely new, it's formless. And so finding that way that it can have, that something can be very new but still be able to be conceptualized, I think is kind of a challenge. You know, they have to have enough reference points.
And what happens when they don't?
So
it may be they either might come up with something completely different, or the process of coming up with them, I guess, would just need to be built in. It would take like longer.
Well, yeah, in some ways it's like the creative process or the inventing things where I can't remember the name of the book now, but you know, basically the guy describes it as like the adjacent possible. So the thing that you're in, the knowledge that you have or whatever, and then to get to the next, you know, you can't get to like 3 rooms away, but you can get to the next room. So you can get to that adjacent idea. And it's the same kind of thing, you know, when you're trying to introduce a new idea to somebody, you have to find out first kind of like where the rooms are that they live in, that you share, and then start there, and then get to that, you know, somehow get to that other room with them.
Yeah, and Gavin was my partner in this, and I think you did a brilliant job of that, of finding the Venn diagram of what a person who only walks and has a cart and doesn't, and that, by the way, jet fuel is what comes out of a dragon's butt. That's what we got.
There you go. Is that where it comes from?
That's what we got to, and it was pretty great.
That's radical. I love that.
It made total sense to me when we got to that.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
awesome.
So we are pretty much out of time, and we do want to ask you for one thing, which is I just put a link in here. If you could click on that link, and then after the session is completed, it'll take you directly to a Google Doc that has a quick survey of what you're taking away from today. We would love to hear from you and get your feedback on what you thought of the session. For our part, we have programs coming up, and we would love to talk with you about those. And thank you so much for playing.
This is our not so subtle marketing right here.
Yeah. Yeah, Jenny has our subtle marketing behind her. One of our areas of expertise is in emotional intelligence. And there's no set of skills that is more in the forefront right now or more in demand right now than emotional intelligence. And so we have 2 4-hour sessions. If you have folks in your midst, or you yourself, who would benefit from having a better ability to recognize your own emotions and the emotions of others and navigate that with more ease and confidence, then we'd love to talk with you about that.
And then as we're winding down, I would also make an ask of you, which is, in this session, we've given you a way to, hopefully multiple ways, to be able to take any given conversation and look at it more from the point of view of playfulness, right? By adding silly puppets, or adding the improviser's mindset of how can I elevate this person right now? Or adding another piece of the improviser's mindset about just being really present and focused on them, which, although is not directly playful, leads us to so many other interesting avenues, as you've discovered through the course of this call. So I'm curious to know, what is something that you might do for the rest of this, whatever's left of the week, it's Thursday, that might allow you to inject a little play into the rest of your week? How are you going to inject some play into maybe meetings that you have tomorrow, or anything that you're going to do? I'd love to hear your playful take on your life right now coming out of this.
Like, I might have some fun with some different Zoom backgrounds and, you know, dressing up like a Jedi with a lightsaber or something.
I love it.
I might go to a party store and get some mustaches and tell people it's been a very long quarantine.
I love it.
Yes.
What
about you, Matthew? You're over there laughing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Alexandra.
I'm gonna use a fake accent the whole time.
We are big fans of bad Russian accents, so we encourage using accents all the time, whenever you can. Yes, da.
Especially terrible ones. They're
Terrible,
really
bad Russian
terrible accents.
All right.
Well, I think you've made a couple of really good points here today about humor and how it's such a vital part of telling your story, whatever version that takes, whatever accent or props or anything. And it's been a great reminder of how the language can be building or deconstructing as well. So I think that's a really good way of being able to modify the language that you use to be more uplifting generally overall. And I think now the unconscious bias bit, it's important to have the playfulness to help people overcome what are much bigger issues that we're all struggling with. And how humor can in fact be a sort of a lubricant for that. Laughter is the best medicine, right? My mother always said.
Right. Very much needed. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm grateful for your time, Jennifer and Ellen. You've been great hosts, and it's good to see everybody here get a little bit of a tickle out of this afternoon. And I would remind you that next week we have a very interesting topic, which is really all about conscious cannabis, because it's become such a big issue on many layers of society and community. And we're looking forward to our moderator, Lisa Gabor. We're also co-conspirating this with our New York chapter friends. And so you'll be receiving an email about this from us in the very near future. So I thank you again, ladies. We'll try and stick to our timeline. And any other comments, leave them in the chat room, and we'll certainly do our best to follow up with your survey just to help you
Thank
move